This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. One of the things that they're doing now is obviously indoctrinating children.
While we may agree that childhood indoctrination is happening, we are probably not going to agree on exactly how. Let's go ahead and grab our drinks because it's time for Call for a Migraine. Oh, I didn't see you there. I was busy doing my daily ritualistic beating myself with a shoe for starting this channel. I'm kidding, it's not that bad. It's worse. So first of all, we have a Cutman Suris from Mega Man by Mason Gene, and now we have a Magical Girl Suris by Envy, and finally we have the
Paganism
Suris by Jack and Quill. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions, and let's get right into the video, which may or may not lead to brain hemorrhaging.
One of the things that they're doing now is obviously indoctrinating children with all of the things that are going on in the world. Normally, you wouldn't even tell kids about something like this if there was an outbreak or something. But obviously with mandating the masks, parents forcing the masks on their own kids at a young age where they're just breathing back in carbon monoxide. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that if I were a parent, I normally wouldn't tell my kid if there was something dangerous that could potentially harm them or kill them? And more importantly, I wouldn't tell them about an outbreak that if they happen to catch whatever it is, they might bring it home to someone vulnerable with asthma or somebody with breathing issues or potentially even their grandmother. I wouldn't warn them that this is a thing. That's a normal thing that you would consider? I mean, I know you're not a parent, because we've had that conversation on my channel, so I don't know if you actually know what a parent would do, but most responsible parents would tell their children if there was something dangerous, especially if there was something dangerous they could bring home to grandma. Another thing, you said breathing in carbon monoxide. You are aware that we breathe out carbon dioxide, right? Not monoxide, and there's a pretty big difference between the two. I mean, you don't want to breathe in copious amounts of carbon dioxide either, but hopefully you're aware that masks are permeable, and when you breathe out, not all of your breath is caught in there. You still breathe in oxygen. You can wear a mask for 8 hours in a day and still be perfectly fine. In fact, actually, we've tested oxygen levels with masks and shown that people still get plenty of oxygen while wearing their mask. There's barely any difference. Now, the air might seem warmer because that's the nature of just having your mouth against something like this, but that doesn't mean you're suddenly breathing in poisonous gases.
People are doing and how they're buying into this with no proof, but there's so much stuff going on that, as always with social engineering, people are just going along for the ride.
Wait, no, there's no proof? I'm sorry, we've actually done studies on masks. We've known their effectiveness for absolutely years. We just don't really take care of ourselves the same way in the United States, where healthcare is concerned, as other countries do. On top of that, you do know that the virus, while it's 1.5 microns in size, it adheres to droplets that are 3 to 5 microns in size, and that a cloth mask is able to block droplets that are 2 microns and higher in size, which means that the droplets that the virus has to adhere to in order to transfer actually get caught by the mask. This is why when people say that the mask is more for protecting other people than yourself, this is what they mean. You sneeze in your mask, cough in your mask, breathe in your mask, and you happen to be an incubator, that virus gets caught in the mask because it can't transfer without being on the water droplets. And the only reason I can say this is because we've already proven this to be the case. You're just not catching up.
Well, somebody sent me this video. You remember growing up, you know, kid songs, you hear songs like The Wheels and the Bus Go Round and Round, stuff like that. Get a load of this social engineering, total indoctrination song, just what you want to play for your young kids at home and get them to sing along.
So I do want to have at least a moment to talk about the social engineering point. Yes, we engage in social engineering. We are social animals, and there are things that we try to prevent, like death on a mass scale. Say death on a scale of 200,000 people in the United States. And one of the ways we do that is by trying to convince people, or at least get them in the habit of doing things that are more helpful for their health. Would you like to know one type of social engineering that we engaged in a long time ago? Do you remember, or are you old enough to remember, when we were taught in school to sneeze like this? And then there was a period of time where people were then taught to sneeze like this. Well, the reason that happened is because the idea of sneezing like this wasn't really sound when you consider the fact that your hands always touch everything after you sneeze, whereas your arm doesn't necessarily do that. You also end up shaking hands with people. Our hands are used for a lot of communication, as I'm doing right now, so we ended up engaging in some social engineering to prevent people from spreading germs in the same way that they were spreading them before. This is really no different. We do engage in engineering on levels like this, but the thing is, you have to look at what the actual end goal of the social engineering is. And in this case, it's merely protection of the public. And it's been used in multiple countries effectively already. Effective in preventing people from spreading diseases, mind you.
I'm gonna wear my mask today. They say keep sicknesses away. One piece of cloth across my face. I'm gonna wear my mask today.
Wait, hold on. This video looks like it's just a standard YouTube video. It doesn't look like it's actually something played on a TV network or anything like that. If that's the case, if this is just a handful of people that made a YouTube video that happens to have a catchy song, is this actually social engineering? Or is this just a group of people making an argument via a song? Like, we either live in the world where this is a YouTube video made from a couple of independent creators, or the world where this is social engineering. If it is both somehow, then we live in a world where all conspiracies might as well just be true, because anything that a random Joe Schmo does on the internet might as well be part of the giant global conspiracy built by the ominous they.
Right, maybe right after that they'll play the Cranberries. Zombie, zombie. Because you have to be a total zombie if you're buying into this and you're doing this to your own children.
Right. I forgot you had to be a zombie to want to protect your kids from COVID-19 when children make up currently 10% of all COVID cases. Right. Oh, and since schools have started, we had a 15% increase of all cases in children. You know, because they're not wearing proper protection, or they're just gathering when they shouldn't be right now anyway, because pandemic, but it's okay. It's all just fake. None of it's really happening. It's just, you're just indoctrinating your kids, wanting to protect them and save their lives. You know, that's indoctrination. But making them read a Bible and telling them that they'll burn in hell if they don't believe in Jesus, that's not indoctrination. That one's good. That's good.
And that's not the only thing that's going on, because obviously these kids are now going to grow up. This is going to be indoctrinated into their head. They're going to remember, they're not going to know what life is like without a mask. They're not going to know, because it's not going to go away. And parents are going to keep putting the masks on the kids, because even when they come out with the vax, they're going to go, yeah, but 100% of people it doesn't work on. Just like with the flu shot. Therefore, people who live in fear because they believe everything they hear in the news and they trust in Big Brother, trust in their government, are going to continue to put masks on their kids. Their kids are going to grow up. They're not going to know what it's like to live outside of being a bubble boy.
So I'm going to have to agree and disagree at the same time here. The agree is that, yes, children might end up growing up in a world where wearing a mask when you think you might have an infectious disease is completely and totally normal. But here's where I disagree. I disagree that this is a bad thing. Here's why. Things like influenza, things like the common cold, things like COVID-19, things that transfer through microdroplets whenever you sneeze, cough, breathe, etc., making sure that we live in a healthier society where people do not transfer these things is a good thing. Your argument is essentially trying to say that we would live in a world where people would do a healthy thing, and that's bad, solely because they've been engineered to do it. There are other things, like I said before, we've been engineered to do, and they're not bad. Like washing our hands, for instance. Coughing into a sleeve, for instance. These are good things and good healthy habits for people to have when they are sick or just in general. But you would rather live in a world where people don't have these protections and people get sick more often, and as a result, people die more often. You're literally arguing pro-death. It's like saying that washing your hands, of all things, makes you a bubble boy and makes you a sheeple or anything like that. And you know, honestly, I wouldn't put it past you, but if that really was an argument you were willing to make, then if we ever met, I don't think I would come within 10 feet of you. I'd be afraid of you spreading the plague. Then again, as a channel called A Call for an Uprising, I do find it very strange that videos like this are basically, this is a call for an uprising, the status quo is being changed. We have to uprise to stop it. The status quo must be maintained. That's kind of funny, honestly.
And that's going to be normal. And you know what the other thing that they're doing, that they're trying to make normal now, is obviously teaching these young kids, even in first grade, about social injustice, this new trend that's going on. Teaching these young kids about it, and teaching them about white privilege. Now, I can't show you the headline of this article because the YouTube algorithm will not allow any, it reads the names of the articles and it will block it, make it restricted, or automatically flag it.
No, it won't. I know it won't because I've done some pretty awkward shit on the YouTube platform and not gotten restricted. The YouTube algorithm is fairly arbitrary in what it does or doesn't restrict, or does and doesn't monetize, and it's not consistent with that either. You can do this and try to predict what the algorithm's gonna do, but trust me, from one YouTuber to another, the best way to figure that out is to put it in anyway, and put your video in as unlisted for a day, and see if it gets hit by the algorithm. And if it doesn't, then you're good. And if it does, then you know that you need to go ahead and re-upload with the modification. I don't think you actually have the foresight to do that, though. This is, however, one of the benefits of constructing the channel the way that I have recently, and that's that videos come out several days and sometimes even a week early. And this means that I can make sure that A, my patrons get videos early, and B, I can check and see if my video is going to get hit by the big old demonetization bot and why.
And give you a strike for talking about these types of things. But white privilege programs are now popping up in school districts around the country, teaching kids about white privilege. I kid you not. This is going as young as to first graders. Now, we already know that they're teaching kids in some schools around the country about gender equality, or I shouldn't say gender equality, but about being gender neutral and trans and the LGBT stuff.
Okay, well, I don't personally see the issue. Most sociologists have agreed that gender is a social construct, at least since the 60s. If we teach children early enough what the majority populace privilege means, or at least in America, what is called white privilege, then we might not have so many adults who don't understand the damn thing. Like, I don't see an issue with teaching basic sociological concepts that are well understood and have plenty of data supporting them. But if you have an issue with that, then I can see how that might be a bit of a problem. But when the glorious day comes where we've all fucked each other so much that we have plenty of mixed-race children and nobody knows what white or black means anymore, still, studying these things in an academic sense is not a bad thing, and learning them earlier isn't a bad thing either. This is like saying that you shouldn't teach children that at one point in time slavery existed because we don't have slavery anymore and it doesn't apply. No, it existed at one point, and white privilege definitely existed then, and it definitely exists now, though in a much diminished state.
They are just getting the kids from every which way they possibly can, and the parents are going along with it because the parents want to be socially and politically correct because they don't want any confrontation. They want to look like, oh yes, I'm doing the correct thing, and you know, just like you see all these companies do or all these athletes do, they say this, the politically correct thing. Nobody can have a difference of opinion. If you do, you're a bigot, you're hateful.
I believe my child should be able to survive, and also my grandma. I don't. I think I'm okay calling you a bigot.
That's how they label people like myself, people like you who listen to this channel.
Well, yeah, you literally said that trans people need to get sent into a mental home. That is textbook bigotry. I'll have a link to the conversation that me and Call for an Uprising had on my channel in the description. The video is normally unlisted because it really isn't anything I want on this channel normally. But context is within that video.
So listen to this. Programs fighting against white privilege are taking center stage in Pennsylvania school districts. A school in the lower Mirion Section District, reportedly one of the richest in the nation, will require 4th and 5th graders to read a book called Not My Idea, a book about whiteness, which claims that white people who relate to police officers or don't watch the news are guilty of being racist.
So for those who don't know, It's Not My Idea is a book about a child who happens to see a white officer kill a black man on TV. The child then looks at their mom for an explanation, and the mom says that we don't see color in this house. And it's really awkward to the kid because, well, they can see the color. They see that a colored man was killed, and they don't know why. They don't know the context for the killing. They've just been given a non-explanation from their parent. So then they go into their library and start studying America's actual history with racism and sees that, oh, there are some issues that need to be addressed. Maybe. Just maybe. Personally, I don't see a problem with this book. Granted, I have not read it, but I have read the summaries, excerpts, and reviews on the book in lieu of seeing this video. So I'm going to go ahead and give an explanation of what happened with me when I was a kid, and maybe this will show why I don't have much of an issue with this. As a kid, there were a couple things that I was told from my mom, and these are not opinions she holds anymore, but they were things that I heard growing up. One of them was that God did not look favorably on mixed-race couples, and this kind of scared me because when I was in middle school, I had a crush on a black girl. I also personally held the opinion when I was, I think, 5 or 6 years old, maybe when I was 7, but I know it was very young, that I didn't want to shake a black person's hand because something about it didn't feel right to me. I couldn't explain it, and when I tried to explain that to a fellow kid in my class who was also black, I had a teacher sit me down and give me a lesson on why I'm not necessarily being the best of children. I don't know what it was that made me have that racist tendency, and I don't know what it was that led my mom to explain to me her views on essentially miscegenation. But I do know that these things happened in my childhood, and I had to have them explained to me later. And one of the ways that we get concepts explained to us really early on, and even into our adulthood, is through reading. I don't see a problem with this book's existence based on what I have read in reviews, and I don't have an issue with kids reading it because that's how I learned a lot of my early life lessons. Please keep in mind that that is a half-formed opinion, though, because I have only read the reviews of the book. I don't have a solid opinion based on reading it myself. Though, now I'm going to end up adding it to my reading list, so thanks for that, call.
And kindergartners and first graders will be assigned a kid's book about racism. I mean, why would this is just, they're engineering kids now. At such a young age, they're engineering them with social injustice, gender, so that they live in a world where they think that being trans is normal. A man identifying as a woman is normal.
Yes, we would like to live in a world where people who are LGBTQ are seen as normal, where minority groups are seen as normal. That is a functionally better world than the one we live in right now. Now, I don't mean to be presumptuous and correct you on everything you said. There's a couple things I half agreed with, but you did say man identifying as a woman, and unfortunately, you're wrong again. It's not a man identifying as a woman. If someone identifies as a woman, they're just a woman. If you want to be super technical, you could say trans woman, but in reality, the most correct term here would just be woman. And I don't mean politically correct. I mean sociologically correct, scientifically correct.
That being white is bad, that there this history of hateful, horrible people, that being a white person, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Nobody inserted white guilt into here. You did that. Nobody said in the book that you as a white person needed to be guilty. It's not about being guilty for being born how you are. That's what you want trans people to do. Nobody said there's anything wrong with being white. Now, I would say there is something wrong with the statement that being white is not a factor in any benefit you've received in your life. It certainly has been, at least in some sense. Even if you have not personally received a benefit, there are things like generational wealth that disproportionately are in white families and not necessarily in black ones because they're only a couple generations removed from things like Jim Crow laws. 100 years from now, this might not be the case. 100 years from now, most families might have enough generational wealth on their back end to where we aren't suffering from the same issues we are right now. But The world we currently live in does include issues of white privilege, even though, again, like I said before, they are more diminished than they were in the past. This is a good thing, but it by no means means we're done. We are done when, statistically, we don't have a significant racial divide in the populace when it comes to things like crime statistics, police killings, and also wealth, generational wealth being my main point.
This is the book teaches kids not only to defy parents, but to hate themselves. To hate their parents also because they are white.
How many times do I have to say that nobody said that?
I mean, can you believe this stuff? The parents send their kids to school, and we know they're trying to get a hold of the homeschooling curriculum as well. Obviously, that I've talked about that for years, about homeschooling, but how it was eventually going to be completely corrupted. And this is just a way for them to completely corrupt the curriculum, because now most people are homeschooling because of everything that's going on. Because this is what a classroom apparently looks like in 2020 if you are going back to school. Have fun inside of a little bubble boy cubicle here. I mean, look at this stuff.
Yeah, temporary measures to stop virus spreads. Oh no, so horrible.
Desks are 6 feet apart. You're sitting inside of a cube. If you're in college, the classrooms, you have to be like 4 seats apart from someone else. Insanity.
Agreed. Maybe people should actually start taking responsibility about the virus so that we can stop this insanity. That would be useful. That would be good. That's not what you're advocating for, though.
Insanity. And that's how it spreads, right? They tell 2 friends, and they tell 2. That's how this whole thing started. And it's just every single person now, from the beginning, who were like, I'll never wear a mask. It's so normal in their lives now. And they're like, I don't mind wearing it. Huh? You don't mind wearing it. Do you mind breathing? Because I don't know many people that can breathe with this thing on.
Oxygen levels do not significantly drop when wearing a mask. If this were the case, then surgeons wouldn't be able to breathe, you lube.
So this is the stuff that's going on in the schools, right? And parents are trying to fight against this. But if you try to fight against this, people are going after these parents and telling them that they're bigots, they're hateful, that they believe that that black people should be discriminated against. I mean, it's absolute insanity. This world has become nothing but chaos. That's what it's become. And the children are the ones who are being targeted now, and there's a reason for it, because their generation, 20 years from now, they're not going to know what life without a mask is like. They're all going to take their shots, right? And not question what's going into their body.
Oh, you're talking about vaccines now. Well, we already had that conversation about vaccines, and you demonstrated that you have no idea what the fuck a vaccine is. We had that chat, and that chat's the same one that I'm linking in the description below. So, when I say this with the highest amount of love I can possibly muster. Since you don't know what the fuck a vaccine actually is or what it actually does, maybe when you say that people don't know what's going in their body, you could stop projecting. Because when it comes to vaccines, education on them is generally pretty solid. It's just people like you that spread misinformation or just don't understand these concepts at even a basic level, but think you do, because you're a walking Dunning-Kruger effect. And while it's hilarious to watch, I think that the propagation is a little dangerous. For those who do want to know more about vaccines, I actually have a video in the description below from my Dangers of Woo series, where I go over the history, the application, and the end results of vaccines. So if that is the thing that you want to do, then check out that link, as with all the other links that I always provide down there when I get the ability to.
They're all going to believe that, white privilege is a thing, and they should feel ashamed of themselves. And if they have white relatives, they should hate them because their forefathers were, just all of this stuff, right? And like I said, and the trans stuff that they push.
Dumbass. I don't know how many times I have to explain in the exact same video that there's nothing wrong with being trans, and there's nothing wrong with being white, and people who are asking you not to be a racist piece of shit are not having a problem with you being white. I don't know how many times I could keep saying the same points over and over again because you keep saying the same thing over and over again, and the refutations are identical each and every time. At a certain point, I just have to ask myself, am I engaging in masochism by watching your channel? And by proxy, am I engaging by sadism by putting this video on my channel? Questions for later. What I do know is that, at least for the length of this video, I don't need to keep on refuting the same point over and over again, so I simply won't. What I will do, though, is leave you with a question. Now, I know that we live in a world where masks work and are also breathable, but let's pretend for a minute that we don't. We either live in a world where masks don't work, but are breathable because they are permeable enough to be breathable, but don't work, or they do work, but they are not breathable because they are not permeable and therefore cannot be breathed through, but they are in fact super effective because, yeah, breath can't get through, but neither can the virus. We can't live in both worlds simultaneously, but you seem to be under the opinion that we do. Now, I recognize this as cognitive dissonance, but you might have an explanation as to why both of these contradictory statements are true. So, Call, if you have an explanation for why both statements are true, then maybe let me know in the comments section. Or if you're one of Call's fans who would like to speak for him, as I know so many of you do, then why not hop in the comments section and explain this cognitive dissonant error to me? But for everyone else, if you enjoyed the video, then please let me know in the comment section below. Leave a like, share with your friends, do any of that stuff. And hey, if you hated it, then let me know why. Leave a dislike, do all that other fun stuff. Engagement is the bread and butter that allows me to afford both bread and butter. And since you made it this far, these are my lovely patrons. They are the people that allow my channel to keep on going and doing what I do. So if you want to be an awesome patron like these guys, then maybe go ahead and head over to my Patreon and chuck a couple bucks there if you have the means to. If you don't have the means to, then don't do it. Seriously, don't sacrifice on the part of me. But if you've got extra and you like what I do and you want some stuff like content given to you as soon as it's made as opposed to when it's released, which can sometimes give you a video 3 or 4 days early, or you like seeing exclusive videos, or you like being part of patron hangouts, then all of that stuff is stuff that you will get by being a patron on my channel, as well as these slides depending on your tier of contribution. But I'm done talking about my Patreon stuff and pointing out all of that. I do it mainly as a course of habit now. Not that I like sitting here shaking the hat and going, coin, coin, please give coin. Though, like, honestly, if I just randomly got 1,000 patrons all at $1, that would be amazing. That would certainly be a thing that I would enjoy. But, you know, that's not a thing everybody can do, and I'm not gonna keep on going on about it. Hopefully, though, you guys enjoyed the video, and it is Friday, though this is being recorded like Monday. So, I'll say I hope that you guys enjoyed being able to play games together on Thursday, since technically I'm saying that on a Friday video, but I'm talking about something that is in the future for me here recording. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.